The lights of the studio blazed like 1,000 suns, casting a warm, inviting glow over the set of The Gayle King Show. It was a weekday afternoon in New York City, and the live audience buzzed with anticipation. Gayle King, the queen of candid conversations, sat poised in her signature armchair, her smile as sharp as her questions. Today's guest was none other than Goldie Hawn, the effervescent Hollywood icon whose laughter had lit up screens for decades. Goldie was there to promote her latest memoir, a heartfelt dive into her life of joy, mindfulness, and the pursuit of happiness. The crowd erupted in applause as she stepped onto the stage, her golden curls bouncing, dressed in a flowing bohemian blouse that screamed effortless charm. Gayle rose to greet her with a hug that seemed genuine, the kind that made viewers at home feel like they were in on the friendship. "Goldie Hawn, everyone! The woman who taught us all how to laugh through life's chaos," Gayle announced, her voice booming through the microphones. Goldie waved to the audience, her blue eyes sparkling under the spotlights. She settled into the guest chair, crossing her legs with that trademark grace. The other co-hosts, a mix of journalists and entertainers, smiled politely from their seats, sipping coffee and nodding along. The atmosphere was electric, friendly, almost familial. But as the cameras rolled and the commercial break ended, no one in that studio, or watching from home, could have predicted the storm that was about to brew. What started as a light-hearted chat would soon unravel into a confrontation that would dominate headlines for weeks. And trust me, the twist that came next? It left everyone speechless. The interview kicked off smoothly enough. Gayle leaned in, her notepad in hand, diving into Goldie's book. "Goldie, your memoir is all about finding joy in the everyday. You've built a career on making people smile, from Private Benjamin to your work with mindfulness apps. What inspired this latest chapter of your life?" Goldie beamed, her voice light and melodic. "Oh, Gayle, it's all about perspective. Life throws curveballs, but I've learned that happiness is a choice. Meditation, family, a good laugh, those are my anchors." The audience cooed in agreement, a few nods rippling through the rows. One co-host, a young lifestyle expert named Mia, chimed in with a chuckle. "I tried your mindfulness exercises last week, Goldie. Changed my whole morning routine." But then Gayle shifted gears. Her smile remained, but her eyes narrowed just a fraction, a subtle cue that only seasoned viewers might catch. "That's beautiful, Goldie. But let's get real for a second. You've been in Hollywood forever, rubbing shoulders with the elite. Your book talks a lot about personal joy, but what about the bigger picture? We're in a world full of inequality, climate crises, political turmoil. Don't you think celebrities like you have a responsibility to use your platform for more than just feel-good vibes?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Goldie paused, her smile faltering for the briefest moment, but she recovered with her usual poise. "Well, Gayle, I believe joy is revolutionary. When people are centered and happy, they're better equipped to make positive changes. My foundation focuses on children's mental health. That's my way of giving back." The audience murmured approvingly, but Gayle wasn't done. She tilted her head, her tone dipping into something sharper, almost accusatory. "Come on, Goldie. That's sweet, but isn't it a bit escapist? You've got millions of followers, a voice that could move mountains. Yet here you are, promoting meditation retreats while the world burns. Some might call that privilege talking, ignoring real issues to sell books." The studio fell into an uneasy hush. Mia shifted in her seat, glancing at the other co-host, a veteran news anchor named Tom, who cleared his throat awkwardly. "Gayle, maybe we can," he started, but Gayle waved him off with a laugh that didn't reach her eyes. Goldie's hands, resting in her lap, tightened ever so slightly, her knuckles widening. The cameras zoomed in, capturing the flicker of surprise in her expression. Was this just tough journalism, or something more personal? The tension was building, and what Goldie said next would change everything. But just as she opened her mouth to respond, a phone buzzed in the audience, someone recording, no doubt. Little did they know, this was only the spark. Goldie took a deep breath, her voice steady but laced with a hint of edge. "Gayle, I respect your perspective. But joy isn't escapism, it's survival. I've faced my share of darkness, raising kids in the spotlight, dealing with Hollywood's pressures. My work helps people cope, especially young minds. Isn't that activism in its own right? The audience split. Some clapped softly, others whispered among themselves. Gayle leaned forward, her notepad forgotten. Activism? Goldie, real activism is marching in the streets, calling out injustices, not hosting yoga sessions for the wealthy. You've been quiet on so many fronts: politics, social justice. Is it because you're afraid to rock the boat, or is it just easier to stay in your bubble? The words landed like punches. Tom's eyes widened, and he tried again. Ladies, perhaps we can pivot to the book. But Gayle pressed on, her voice rising. No, Tom, let's be honest. Goldie, your daughter Kate has spoken out boldly. Why not you? Are you hiding behind that sunny persona? The studio air thickened, the hum of the cameras suddenly deafening in the growing silence. Goldie's face flushed, a rare crack in her composed facade. She uncrossed her legs, leaning in as if to meet Gayle's gaze head-on. Hiding? Gayle, that's unfair. I've built my life on authenticity. But attacking me like this, it's not about dialogue, it's about drama. The audience gasped audibly now, a few people pulling out their phones despite the no-recording signs. Mia looked downright uncomfortable, fidgeting with her earrings. Behind the scenes, producers in the control room exchanged panicked glances. One even motioned to cut to commercial, but the director shook his head. This was ratings gold, after all. Goldie's eyes glistened, not with tears, but with a fierce determination. What would she do next? Walk out, or unleash a response that would go viral? The clock was ticking, and the real explosion was seconds away. As the standoff intensified, Goldie straightened her posture, her voice gaining strength. You know, Gayle, I've admired your work for years. You're a trailblazer. But this? Questioning my integrity on live TV? That's not journalism, that's judgment. The audience erupted in a mix of boos and cheers, the division palpable. A woman in the front row wiped her eyes, moved by Goldie's vulnerability. Gayle, unfazed, shot back. Judgment? Goldie, I'm just asking what everyone thinks. Your brand is all sunshine and rainbows, but where's the substance? Prove me wrong. Tom finally interjected forcefully. Okay, let's take a breath here. Goldie, tell us more about your foundation. But it was too late, the damage was done. Goldie's hands trembled slightly as she set down her water glass with a clink that echoed through the mics. The producers scrambled, whispering into earpieces. Security lingered at the edges of the set, just in case. Goldie glanced at the audience, her expression a blend of hurt and resolve. You want substance? Fine. Let's talk about the time I fought for women's rights in the 70s, or how my programs have reached millions of kids. But you didn't ask about that, you went straight for the jugular. Gayle's smile faltered for the first time, a flicker of regret? Or calculation? The co-hosts froze, the air charged with unspoken tension. And then, in a move that stunned everyone, Goldie stood up slowly, her heels clicking against the stage floor. Was she leaving? The audience held its collective breath. What happened next would redefine both women's legacies, but you'll have to keep reading to find out how this powder keg finally ignited. The studio lights seemed to dim, though they hadn't, as Goldie Hawn stood tall on the set of The Gayle King Show. The audience, a mix of shocked gasps and hushed whispers, leaned forward in their seats. The cameras, like silent predators, zoomed in on Goldie's face, her eyes blazing with a mix of defiance and hurt. Gayle King, caught off guard by Goldie's decision to stand, clutched her notepad tightly, her knuckles betraying a flicker of unease. The co-hosts, Mia and Tom, exchanged wide-eyed glances, their attempts to defuse the situation now a distant memory. The air crackled with tension, the hum of the studio equipment a low drone beneath the pounding heartbeats of everyone present. Goldie's heels clicked once more as she took a single step forward, her voice steady but cutting. Gayle, you want to talk about substance? Let's talk about using a platform to tear people down instead of lifting them up. The crowd erupted, some cheering, others booing, a few still fumbling with their phones to capture the moment. What Goldie did next would send shockwaves through the internet, but the real question was, would she walk away, or fight back with words that would echo for years? Goldie's pause was deliberate, her gaze sweeping the audience before locking on to Gayle. I came here to share something meaningful, my journey, my work, my heart. But you turn this into a spectacle. You think joy is trivial? Try telling that to the kids my foundation helps, the ones who've learned to breathe through their trauma because of programs you didn't bother to research. Her voice trembled, not with weakness, but with the weight of conviction. Mia, the lifestyle co-host, tried to jump in, her voice shaky. Goldie, we so admire your work. But Goldie raised a hand, silencing her gently. I'm not done, Mia. The audience gasped again, a woman in the back row covering her mouth. Tom shifted uncomfortably, muttering under his breath to a producer through his earpiece. Gayle, however, leaned back in her chair, her expression a mix of defiance and curiosity. Go on, Goldie. Enlighten us, she said, her tone dripping with challenge. The cameras caught every angle, the sweat on a producer's brow, the flicker of panic in the control room. Was Goldie about to unravel, or was this the moment she'd reclaim her narrative? The answer was coming, and it was bigger than anyone expected. You know what's easy, Gayle? Goldie continued, her voice rising, each word landing like a carefully aimed dart. It's easy to point fingers, to call someone out for not fitting your idea of activism. What's hard is staying true to who you are when the world, when people like you, try to shame you for it. I've spent decades building something real, something that helps people find light in the dark. And you? You're using your voice to make me feel small. That's not power. That's just noise. The studio fell silent, the kind of silence that feels like it could shatter glass. A man in the audience stood, clapping slowly, until others joined in, a wave of applause swelling. Gayle's smile vanished entirely now, her eyes narrowing as she processed Goldie's words. Behind the scenes, the director hissed into his headset. Keep rolling, don't cut. A producer scrambled to check social media. Hashtag Goldie vs. Gayle was already trending. But Goldie wasn't finished. She took another step, her bohemian blouse catching the light, and what she said next would turn this moment into television history. Could Gayle recover, or had Goldie just flipped the script? The co-hosts were visibly rattled. Tom, ever the diplomat, tried again. Goldie, Gayle, let's find some common ground here. But Goldie cut him off, her voice softer now, almost pleading. Tom, there's no common ground when someone's trying to rewrite your truth. I'm not here to play a villain in Gayle's story. She turned to the audience, her eyes glistening but resolute. I've spent my life spreading joy because I believe it's a lifeline. When I was young, I was told I was too bubbly to be taken seriously. I fought that. I built a career, a family, a legacy, all while staying true to me. And now here I'm being told it's not enough? That's not a question, it's an attack. The crowd roared, some shouting, "Preach!" while others sat stunned, torn between loyalties. Gayle, sensing the shift, leaned forward, her voice sharp. Goldie, nobody's attacking you. I'm asking you to step up, to use your privilege for more than self-help books. The jab landed, but Goldie's next move was a masterstroke, one that would leave the studio, and the world speechless. What could possibly top this moment? The answer was seconds away. Goldie straightened, her shoulders back, her voice now a blend of steel and serenity. You want me to step up, Gayle? I'm stepping up right now. I'm standing here, in front of you, this audience, these cameras, saying that joy is not a privilege, it's a right. Every person deserves to feel it, to fight for it, no matter their circumstances. My work isn't about ignoring the world's pain, it's about giving people the strength to face it. And if you can't see that, then maybe you're the one hiding, behind tough questions and cheap shots. The audience exploded, a tidal wave of applause and cheers. A few stood clapping furiously, while others whispered, "Did she just say that?" Gayle's face froze, her lips parting but no words coming out. Mia's jaw dropped, and Tom rubbed his temples, muttering, "We're gonna need a longer commercial break." In the control room, Producers were in chaos. One yelled, "This is going viral," as Twitter lit up with clips of Goldie's speech. Goldie glanced at the exit, her hand brushing her blouse. Was she done, or was there one final twist? The studio held its breath, waiting for the moment that would seal this confrontation's place in history. The studio of The Gayle King Show was a powder keg, the air thick with anticipation as Goldie Hawn stood defiant, her words still ringing. Joy is not a privilege, it's a right. The audience was a sea of divided emotions, some cheering wildly, others frozen in shock, phones glowing as they recorded what was already going viral. Gayle King, usually unshakable, sat rigid, her notepad a crumpled shield. The co-hosts, Mia and Tom, were statues of discomfort, Mia twisting her earrings, Tom whispering urgently into his earpiece. The cameras, relentless, caught every detail, the bead of sweat on a producer's temple, the flicker of panic in the control room. Goldie's bohemian blouse shimmered under the lights, her eyes locked on Gayle. The silence stretched, a tightrope ready to snap. Would Goldie walk out, leaving the stage in case, or deliver one final blow to cement this moment in television history? The answer was seconds away, and it would change everything. Goldie took a deep breath, her voice softening but no less powerful. Gayle, I came here to share hope, not to be your punching bag. You want activism? Look at the millions of kids my foundation has reached, the schools we've supported, the lives we've changed. You didn't ask about that, you went for the headlines. The audience roared, a wave of applause drowning out the hum of the cameras. A woman in the front row stood, tears streaming, clapping furiously. Gayle opened her mouth to respond, but Goldie pressed on, her tone now a blend of resolve and vulnerability. I've fought for joy my whole life, not because it's easy, but because it's hard. It's hard to smile when the world tells you you're not enough. But I'm enough. And so is every person watching who's ever felt dismissed. The studio erupted again, the sound deafening. Mia nodded slowly, visibly moved, while Tom muttered, "This is unreal." Behind the scenes, producers scrambled. Hashtag Goldie vs. Gayle was trending worldwide, clips flooding Twitter and TikTok. But was this Goldie's final stand, or did she have one last surprise? Gayle, sensing the tide turning, leaned forward, her voice sharp but unsteady. Goldie, I'm not dismissing you. I'm challenging you to do more. The world needs voices like yours to fight the big fights, not just sell mindfulness. It was a desperate pivot, but Goldie was ready. She stepped closer to the edge of the stage, addressing the audience directly. You know what the big fight is? It's giving people the strength to keep going. Joy isn't a luxury, it's a weapon against despair. And I won't apologize for wielding it. The crowd surged to its feet, a standing ovation that shook the studio. Gayle's face twitched, a mix of frustration and reluctant respect. Tom tried to interject. Let's take a break. But Goldie shook her head. No, Tom. I'm done. In a move that stunned everyone, she unclipped her microphone, the clink echoing through the speakers. She turned to the audience, her voice clear. Thank you for listening. Keep choosing joy. With that, she walked off the stage, her heels clicking defiantly, leaving a stunned Gayle and a studio in chaos. What happened next would spark a firestorm online, but would it redeem or ruin them? The cameras followed Goldie's exit until she disappeared behind the curtain. The audience was a mix of cheers and murmurs, some shouting, "We love you, Goldie!" while others debated in hushed tones. Gayle sat back, forcing a smile as she addressed the crowd. Well, that was something. We'll be right back. The show cut to commercial, but the control room was pandemonium, producers yelling, phones buzzing with network execs demanding answers. On social media, clips of Goldie's speech racked up millions of views within minutes. Goldie Hawn just owned Gayle King, one tweet read, while another countered. Gayle was just asking real questions. The internet split. Some praised Goldie's grace, others called her defensive. Gayle faced backlash for bullying, though her supporters argued she was holding power to account. Goldie's memoir skyrocketed to the top of bestseller lists, her message of joy resonating louder than ever. But the real question lingered. Who was right? Did Goldie's walkout prove her strength, or did Gayle expose the truth? The debate raged on, with one thing clear: this moment would define their legacies. So, what do you think? Did Goldie do the right thing? Share your thoughts in the comments, and join the conversation that's taken the world by storm.